Are y'all cool with videoing?
Yes.
Cool.
Can you catch? Really?
Yes.
Can you catch?
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a nice catch. But good.
What?
Exclusively on traditional arguments.
I read exclusively traditional arguments. Just very fast.
Value debate.
Where's
1,
Slobbin?
2,
20 extra bucks though.
He didn't come back.
Oh, he never came
I
back.
think
Yeah, he was
behind
in
Truman.
We have prize.
How are you?
Yeah, we're about to start.
Okay.
Let's
go.
We're starting? Yeah, we got everybody. Great.
Yeah.
So we're starting?
What's it called?
What's
Yeah.
it?
I just did.
Yeah,
smart
Do you
money.
call? What's it called?
What?
What's it called?
Sort by date modified. Like,
Yeah, it's like cards for relative, cards octos. I don't remember. Cards quarters.
Oh. Yeah.
So much audience participation. I'm really glad that you're broadening your horizons formally. That the form of LD is taking on such new and strange
he's not tired. Just sit there. He's trying to talk to the answer.
Yeah, I'll just search for computer.
Y'all good?
Yep.
Let me get my mouse out.
Yeah.
Is your water bottle full?
Alright, you good?
Let me. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just gonna reorganize. I haven't opened the app yet.
I think they were. I mean, like, yeah, but they weren't important. Like, you have to know, and it's just like your stress or what you're trying to do. Like, it's
I like how no one's like after.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Does anybody have a pocket full of napkins that you can tear up?
relate, I don't, but I get where you're coming from.
Are you ready? Doing already.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Cool.
Meaning lips makes sense with the frame of reference, isolates the practical difference, makes an action appears. We mean by calling the hard wall, scratch from many other substances, considers this quality license, disease effects, there's no difference between a hard thing and a soft thing, so long as they're about to suppose that adaptive can be crystallized in soft power, would be false state, the damage soft would occur, or surface would not actually rise, but fact, we're only arrangement. This commits to practical deliberation as a method of moral inquiry. That's our one. Ethics valid with examination, past action, self-correction, moral inquiries, perform deliberately, weighing up argumentations, principles, and comparing them with consequences and experiences that impinge upon the subject's responsiveness. Part of what it means to make a moral decision. This is a deliberate activity, plus an effort to acquire habits that contribute to free deliberation. The activity takes form of the experimentation, the limited conclusion habits of the standards, promoting pragmatic deliberation for the standard. Additionally, first other ethical leaders rely on minimalistic criteria to find a track for results by using this criteria better inform just lawful to gain. Practice rules are criteria not we found what was appropriate. As we obtain new evidence, we find out what was appropriate and not be conducive to the new world. The more world is complex, changeable. No criteria gives us univocal answers about how we should behave in all circumstances. Environment change pragmatic criteria tools we use to make informed judgment. The emerging criteria giving an innovator no habits and informing ways we react to our world's other theories can isolate more relevant features. The practices absorbs these and shapes how she habitually responds. Second, the plurality of experience the furnace for ourselves for moral action as Roger self-right is doing. Our moral tries to be in response to the problematic features that we find ourselves in. Questions are not made through speech without arguments. Actually goes out of attention to the experience that inquiry arises this action that is concerned with the things to know situation, demand, reflection, developed out of immediate experience or situation with the narrative structural experience, moral issues are problems we encounter social beings. The experience of social reality provides a starting point, terminal point for setting problems, testing problem solution. Third, our framework moves away from abstraction and social knowledge is changing in a neural-based social change and revision ideas. Well, seven, philosophy to deal with problems human using knowledge as the freedom of our undertakings to see the enrichment of our immediate experience through control of our action. We turn our attention to actual consequences, pursuing in future grounded and shaped by experience. We take care with the understanding all facts are fallible, pragmatism as well as solidarity, pragmatism can as an instrument of social improvement and grounding the grounded individual self-development and the disposition to apply to our fellows. Impact calculus, deliberation is procedural substance, which means that we're concerned with the decision-making procedure, deliberation, and all the evaluation of what impacts on our needs most. That's there too. Deliberation is not directly responsible for direct action, but so directly with the effort to reinforce our habits, task, problems, does not provide final solution, but only the assessing communication of experience of superiority. One idea can be demonstrated contention. Many emerging nations don't have the resources to fund educational programs for children as humanium. 17 million children in primary education range on school. Many emerging countries non-appropriate financial resources necessary to create schools to provide materials and recruiting teachers. Funds are not sufficient for all countries to establish an educational system for all children. To make girls of least access to education, they make 54% of non-school population in the world. Thus, advocate that wealthy nations have obligation to provide a development assistance to emerging nations through financing formal and non-formal education systems for Dylan's Zarzua. Effective education which seeks to not merely increase numbers, but to make a lasting improvement. Learning equality is complex. There's no set blueprint on what to do. What is needed will be informed by political economy, sociology of education system. Formal and non-formal education system will include the obvious implementation of classroom materials, will also need systemic specific reforms, including meeting at the ethical, local, and locational gender requirements, and advancing increased access for those with disabilities. The combination of formal and non-formal education is used to facilitate rapid social change and encouraging socialization of people as Bach and Giannis. Non-formal education is a social product interacting with the other domains of society. It serves to provide competency with those competencies represents their additional roles that are emerging repertoire new status and roles. Non-formal education emphasizes the emerging repertoire factor of non-formal education as a service function, which is the moral technical socialization of people in revolutionary societies, which dramatically new values value orientations or legitimized previous values orientations roles are declared illegitimate. All those who had held going to undergo formal and non-formal educative experience to eradicate inadequacies perform resocialization norm. Non-formal education is more to field state rapid social change. Breakthrough studies indicate that developmental education actually does increase enrollment rates in lifelong learning. That's also Chami. This study investigated the effect of foreign education lifelong learning in African countries for 50 African countries for 96 to 2010. I favor those positive effects on primary school enrollment and lifelong learning. We contribute to the literature by proposing a lifelong learning indicator. NFE avoids imperial learning by encouraging moral advocates who have genuine connections to the world around them supporting. A formal school system has purpose defined by government responsible for educational adult education program not working towards an external examination must usually define its purposes. NFE is about increased equity and greater equality and distribution of power and resources that should impose closeness of all things. The status quo is unjust education being unjust if society is moving in a equalitarian direction. The formal education can flourish. We try to correlate NFE and political change systemics to be decade of NFE case studies were flexibility essential in successful outcome, increasing access to education provision, and empower learners to understand and necessary changes social structure around them. Education must add to individual skills and attend to rules and structures of wider social system, top and bottom approaches, and one came together effectively in the root program. And one under view, 1 hour, 3 meta theories, legitimate drop the way to read away, 2 check infinite abuse, 1 hour, 2 short, go for the drop, the argument using negative 2 time advantage in the 2 hour. Even if the shell's 4 minutes, they can dump on it for 5:30 and go for 30 seconds. Substance on auto one only drop the themselves. Athletes are based on interpretation, time is 8.2 in. Has the option to go finger either substance of the with the layer, the RFI, force the 2 and go for the negative 2 hours, repeat right response to opportunity, sequence the 2 hours, short speech, behind you have a collapse of highest level, otherwise have to be back every 3 minutes. And no 2 in RVS, 8 point creates distractions to people reading through the theory are largely based on RVS, or 2 in RVS score the 1 RV point, 2 in RVS score the 2 hours, and force the 2 hour go for 3 or the RV regardless of the 1 hour shot C point. It's most reciprocal. I want RVS my first piece, so they should do excessive work because discourse representations kill the liberal moves you seek to promote abstract wait for social change in shape 15. PC politics is often claims of victimhood alien much of America. The movement's pertinence because move people outrage and prove those through the hopeful move around requiring mass politics. Liberalism seem positive. There's so many ways to settle online, so many actions with issues. Politics, democracy is getting people who agree with you and not making them afraid to disagree. You can't use normative statements about the state to highlight this fair which doesn't reaffirm its legitimacy as Newman 10. Making demands on the state, say for example, an end to draconian policy policing is the basic strategy of social movements. Making such demands does not mean reaffirming its legitimacy. Demands are made from a position outside the political order and then exceed the question of implementation of this or that specific measure. They question legitimacy and even the sovereignty of the state by highlighting inconsistency between a formal and order which guarantees certain equalities and state practices which deny them. State comes first 8.0. No state actions see the political which makes every impact worse. Macro level actions determine the capacity. Macro actions like access to services good which makes it the worship that you can have a revolutions. Everyone's happening. Case second sentence double every direction eventually culminates in recreation as you if you break all social organization will happen in a UT and norms will develop which makes a heuristic example. We might as well learn how to make it better. I also have more time, so it looks like I'm going to be sending you some things. Give me a second. Interpretation of negative events and alternative actions to the actor of that advocacy must be the asymmetric the affirmative advocacy used to clarify most of the United States federal government enacting your SCBs. The violation shows preemptive sentence or reason prefer if found to be alternative actors law the negative feel the opposite of the way this post terminal defense the one sees the impact means the negative not have been solved the after we know the martial bodies being affected by the state one attempts to combat by limiting by enacting the one but you feel the object the after way the people away by saying they'll rectify all state-based issues and impossible the after generate office on the issue with the negative ways fail issues with the fiat one you don't have to defend problems in implementing your alternative because you fail purpose policy that's key fairness because you get qualitatively much better arguments on the for the ballot on top of making the one I see, but this is the worst violation. There's literally no way to argue against perfection, and this also links to your role ballot. Outweighs your issue. Your practice is unrealistic and you capable of being judged in a world with no solvency. We never test your alternatives. If feasible on the misuse, you actively destroy the potential meaningful discussion on the issue because you sidestep any criticism. I'll send you the arguments. Sent. Cool. Cross.
I can pull it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just sent it out as text.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is everybody ready? Do consequences matter under your framework?
So here's how we contextualize it, right? The argument is that pragmatic deliberation, is a means-based framework in that we say that pragmatic deliberation is a decision-making method, which means that consequences, I guess, in terms of the deliberation process might matter, but
It's just a yes or no question. I don't care. So it does not.
Well, the argument is that it's a question.
Okay, so if I
asking for yes or no's are done.
If I prove that the 1AC will lead to war, how's that not a factor in deliberation? Obviously,
Right.
when we deliberate, we take in the consequences. of
Yes,
that
we say
action.
that deliberation is a good thing, but the argument is the standard is about consistency with pragmatic deliberation, which means it's a question of decision making.
Okay, so the affirmative is just like the
means-based
affirmative is just
act.
like we should just get indigenous tribes and teach us
Indigenous
teach
tribes.
them
What? No.
like emergent nations. What are emergent
Okay,
nations?
not indigenous tribes, Jesus. But the argument in the 1AC.
What is an emergent nation?
What's up?
What's an emergent nation?
It is one that is not a wealthy nation.
One is not a wealthy nation?
Yes, it is other nations, I just don't,
Oh,
don't
okay,
wanna
okay,
get
okay,
it with the
okay.
K, so.
So, just so we're clear, wealthy nations teach other nations Western education, and therefore they can engage in the process of like white deliberation.
No.
Then why is
It
the
seems that the
affirmative
thesis of
distinct
the
from
app
those
is
types of
the
education?
exact opposite of that.
Why?
right?
How does the
Because the app is a
affirmative
question of non-formal education and formal
What's
education.
the
The argument,
distinction?
right, so it would be reductive to say that formal education systems are bad in every instance. The argument is that
Why?
formal education systems provide useful things like learning materials, textbooks, teachers, et cetera, but those things have to be mediated by real-world experience, which resists colonial domination. That is the non-formal education plank of the affirmative. The whole point is that these like things that they learn in school, in order to mediate the risk of bias in the explanation of that, non-formal education is necessary in that it allows for learning outside of traditional school systems experientially, so it's a really good thing.
Okay. Next, can you just explain to me what the app does? It's just fun people.
Yeah, fun education, non-formal and formal education systems.
So you said no tune or RBIs. What
Yeah.
about one of the RBIs?
Go for it. Read them. I will say we will have the debate over. Wait, actually, no. Yeah, read one and see RBIs. You have the ability to do that.
Okay. Next, the framing.
Yep.
How can I turn the app?
By showing the affirmative is not a does not equal the.
Do representations matter?
No, absolutely not.
What? Where does you justify that?
Shade 15.
Okay. All right, sure. Okay. I'm gonna take the rest for Brett.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say something sarcastic, but. Any other questions from us?
Do you find the state better?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? What is a minimalistic criteria?
What?
What is a minimalistic criteria?
Sure. So other ethical theories, both of them be critical and analytical, will be like, oh look, consequences are the only thing that matters, or like.
Wait, your
Freedom
your
violations are the
theory
only-
says that consequences is like for sure doesn't matter. Isn't that the same?
No,
logic?
that's what I'm saying. Asking the yes or no question is reductive. It's not what my friend says, right? We say that consequences, intentions, all these things are relevant in our decision making, but the whole
So
point of the app
consequences
is that
matter
we should-
in terms of the app.
No, that's not what you're understanding, right? The whole point is that the app is means-based, but we take into account different criteria, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's a question of philosophy, but it's unnormative.
Wait, it's not a normative ethical theory?
Right, it's a decision-making procedure.
How do you create the how do you create the space to which we can use procedures? Is like is the affirmative just like an iteration of how like it's just a ability to create like the deliberation stage to which we can have the deliberation? Okay. So the consequences of the affirmative definitely matter.
Yeah. It's just a question of means of the affirmative, right? It's not the ends of like
whether the discussion.
If we
is
prove
valid,
that, if you
whether
prove that
it's-
you cannot set the stage correctly, how is that not a direct?
Right, the argument is that like, look, I think the Sarah 2 evidence is the best evidence in the affidavit to tell you exactly what the impact calculus is, right? It says that it is not a question, it's not deliberation, let me read you the card, this will be perfect. Deliberation is not directly responsible for directing action, but does so indirectly by the effort to reinforce certain habits. The task of the pragmatist is not to provide final solutions, but only the testing and communication experiences that superiority of one idea can demonstrate. The argument here is the one I see is a question of the possibility.
I stopped practical like halfway into your talking. It's one off case.
Could be a lot.
50. Cool. One off case. Sent. That's mine.
Wait, but case, is it like an NC or on the app case?
On the app case. Is everybody good? Okay. Blackness is ontological. No passage of branded black bodies not being laid in the foundation on which civil society was built. Challenge and Jimmy Cole and Mike Brown, the same grammar, something that originates from the fundamental antagonism of the rule about so minimize anti-black violence. Wilderson. Oh wait. Tensions found impossible in ethical development for the black appearance of the mechanism that elevates the difference between living the dead violence and the the black is the point of struggle with the violence of African thing without knowledge because it's simply a person like blue empirical technology rather than the violence of middle class white and fix the Jews and knowledge to keep the Jews African but the Jews can't like the violence which turns to the body flesh away part literally imaginatively there's no possibility of ontology because of positions the black within the infinite vulnerability finds no ontology within the humanity and well I'll say I have specifically links one the democracy's freedom is rendered incoherent by incurrence of black majors captivity of physical and psychological sexual terror hidden behind the dominant narrative of improvement. James 13 democracy is a defining that freedom through captivity of exploitation of black exists historical and social feature of democracy, where particularly marginalized the articles of analyzing democracy terror point to the black major side of symbolic and material subjugation of political chronology and narratives about violence and terror to the constitution of the U.S. democracy particularly black majors spacing with the philosophical inquiries of subjugation and maturity of this trauma known as culture and public memory that democracy generates violence and targets the black major because of knowledge for foundational framework which building the border between democracy captivity and deniability and innate violence the black major point the constitution of uncharted territory and the United States democracy. They're going to say the one is not a form of democracy but the actual promotion and deliberation is an example of a trying to promote the policy in an arena which every single view is completely supported, which is an example of how the affirmative is just an iteration of Western colonialism, which is our link evidence into legal solutions to human rights. Our insufficient to fail to recognize the recent history, racist laws that perpetuate anti-black violence. Henderson, 9 jurisprudence has to create legal norms that operate without respect to standard understanding of psychological permanent slavery and segregation of courts, exclude embodies the supreme and limited country integration, any minister of raceless, impermissive lawyers that design lawmakers to convince that particularly neutral and legal across the accident and name racial hierarchy and oppression here. They're going to say it's not specifically affirmative, but our argument is simply that empirics prove that when you try to promote a deliberation strategy, it has never worked in the past, and when you try to implement the affirmative or use it to universalize it inevitably leads to anti-black violence and understands the locality of slave is the one of public fulfilling civil society's demand for legitimate violence against black bodies. Black people always asking for in the society to have anti-blackness. The link here is the idea of free speech itself. Brady, 12 interrupts voice in pain and criminalized when the parties police right the director of the wheelchair playing government leaving the hospital for the police officer threatening her. You have 2 seconds to bring your legs to this place that she can move legs not choosing to her suffering and honorable the various skin over challenging the law resisting and disrespecting authority is legitimate abortion violence and care to enterprise the son's later body on the ground of his actual course and verticals the ontological impact of black in civil society. Black people to America continually displaced into a women culture person when they black men while the Christian double complex is dedicated to statement to the imprisonment of black people while black people are continuously stigmatized for being a Wilderson. 11 subject of vertical disease and one spinning other section spinning other way stationary with the stick one simply spinning other way stable environment one environment partially unhinged. Stems relations with violence can be analogous, conflict, vertigo, destruction, reported performative violence, black people subject to violence or paradigm necessity, and not just a performative continuity of weaker something vertigo is radically different when violence makes you regular rolling zero, violence, number, bigger from they rate, the state's business discipline, violence, of black people, content, bad, because of flavors, suffering suspicion, which are analogous with the radar effects of flavors, which display the suspicion of human subalterns, turns case 1.8 point is that ontological damage is the root cause of your impacts. Obviously, deliberation isn't working in the status quo because of blackness is ontological, and there's never respect in civil society, which there's no impact of free speech. 3 point is that with severity, all revolutionary product concerns the average is an example of subject vertigo, object vertigo, when there's no strategy to participate in that deliberation. The affirmative is an iteration of anti-black, and now our tone is to enter the constant interrogation of black personality, and in order to render civil society coherent, Wilderson 10 during the part that I began to see how an influential player back to the analysis of the movement dedicated to over the lights over the compromise we're doing, our ability to hold the monarchy to fight our political agenda, predicate the influencing freedom, and also we have to get out of the question, the greatest power of the case to make framework, the value that is premise, and the false universality, life and freedom to create racism is a reality of black social life today. The case of prerequisite understanding how we create value in the world, sex and all of our freedoms more than understanding depending on the advantage to integrate the racial discord of the life of the demonstrate the question of life can be a part of the authorities around the policy to problem without the question that remains one of the immediate negotiation that seeks to be able to look upon that whether it's politics or the status of for instance like the theological defense on wills and social affirmatives warn for an ethical obligationally method division between the slave world and the world of the human the starting point and root cause of the impacts began with the slave master relationship. Sexton 11 something the universal latency is notion useful the critically the racial slavery is a metric relationship with abolition the implications of is a qualification complicated of some black cultural studies in general black performance studies in particular disposition that positive ontology that drives the human constitutively without sophisticated the object statement and the decision there's nothing to configure like context or audience or question or conjecture score the approach of otherwise important questions out of questions and call for concrete solutions to debate their state action. It replicates colonial context in two ways. First, law enforcement is literally predicate and colonialism. Second, this is their use of debates education force is inculcating the correct moral reflex. It's also a case term because of the question of education and the way you promote it. Phenon, the board's representative police station, the spokesperson, the colonizer, the police officer, education, the exchange moral reflexes, the aesthetic force respected in so many submission with the agents of the task of agents law of the police ensure colonizing given on the close security the agents of relieving a person the law enforcement brings violence to the homes that might colonize and that we're focused on we don't need the card. Line by line. You say the point of the 1 ECs or deliberation. Usually, this begs the question of the deliberation for black people. Black people who constantly face suffering in civil society, which is an example of whenever they are trying to whenever they try to run for election, they're always demonized by people. For example, Ben Carson, even though he has a values for Ben, our argument is that structural antagonism in civil society making it impossible for black people to have an important deliberation. Everybody demonized Obama, even though it's objectively better than Trump. These types of revolution also prove that the political argument is not unique, so you can't go with the state argument and the one AR and now the contention that this new level of neo-colonial strategies of education and done with is to promote westernization. Out of 114, colonial education system federal against the metropolitan powers instead of a self-independent independent country made colonial powers schooling these new countries limited capacity to realize education illegals were inclined to continue colonial education and work their cultures and colonial powers adopt strategy of domination to take the education policy into developed contexts such as essence for educational reform the by western pedagogies and ideas to develop fiscally penetration and neoliberal capitalist ideology paraphrasing the underview anti-blacks a form of worse harm under terms some people engaging in activities as a whole two fairness for who this means. This represents the colorblind idea of notion of fairness which impacts on life using around understanding to compensate for non-ideal reality. And 3, there is a procedural requirement to back up person reinforces oppression. This is another link to create a performative reason to gain Priose 96 established of the authority maker the participants in American they have to say participants over countries the best way to engage certain important argumentation or celebrating the front of the social forms of authority so previously established that must be paid to the struggles that traditional forms of the authority the scholars should be encouraged to agents to be challenge the dominant forms of argument and authority and their model of debate makes black people jump through hoops talking about oppression also takes out your representation don't matter arguments there's a prior question of those liberal moments being created in the first place. Smith 13 obstruction to the conversation reality that electors have to build everyday norms would have the debate competitors to intellectual demonstration make up rules with huge black people shaping hard conversations only culture of the study student engage with the discussion. Students should not just like a person is not a game of learning environmental potential. You say that we in order we can make more than demand say no the firm is not in order to demand to say the process but you don't defend the consequences of people problems you don't operate within the role playing arena so it's not a demand to say but rather a call to an action that doesn't actually do anything. Now the theory debate I should be able to have you should reject spikes in the 1 to 8 point is that it's unpredictable especially because it makes it impossible for 1 to see strategy formulation especially when we have performance of every point is that every point is a potential negative office we should have 2 in our re-articulation because we don't know we don't know the violation itself. The 1AR should have the burden because the violation itself the 1AC was preempted so at least allow new 2 in our re-articulation. Sure the standards may be correct but allow us to respond to them in 2 otherwise it makes it impossible to 1AC because all you can read something anti-black and then read 3,000 reasons why anti-black doesn't matter. It makes it impossible to call your action which is a reason why your performance matters.
Cool. Is everyone ready? Everyone good? Cool. What is the black?
What is the black? Like, what do you mean, like
What is the black body?
a person from African American ancestry?
Didn't we all descend from Africa at one point?
think so.
Really?
My parents were born in India.
What? Oh my god. What?
Our argument is that. Okay, sorry.
Serious?
Okay, our argument is that.
Alright, no, that's all the answer I need. Let's go to the critique, because no, there's a no way evidence establishes that blackness is ontological. What is the warrant for that? As in like, actually, no, let's talk about the James evidence.
James evidence?
The James evidence and the Brady evidence. These are all arguments about how deliberation of the affirmative is a bad thing that like black people don't have access to. Why is that the case?
Why is that the case?
Yes.
The first one, so the second link, the Henderson evidence, is empirics for the first evidence, but the first evidence, the argument is that democracy is not some sort of like activity where
What is the
black
action
people-
of democracy?
Well, I made the link specific after I read
Yeah,
the
I'm
part
asking
that
you to
it's a
explain that.
question of
I'm
deliberation.
asking you to explain
The
that.
idea of deliberation is inherently into that because it presumes that there's a way to engage in the conversation or
What?
contention level.
Isn't the whole point of the app that a conversation happens?
Yeah, that was the
in a
next
certain
sentence.
way?
That was the next sentence. Our argument is that the contention level offense proves that the affirmative is clearly not that form. And this doesn't mean that the
What?
link, this is, what?
Okay, my question is, the
We
one
read
thing against us
solvency
is that we
deficits.
frame discussions in certain ways. I don't understand how we do that. If you can see
Understand how you
empirical
do
arguments
what?
about how we do not do that.
I don't think we conceded them. We read a contention
Really,
card on
you
case.
conceded like both studies, yeah.
We read a card on case, dude. Like,
Sweet. Let's talk about the fairness for who argument. So this argument seems to like. Wait, did you read the fairness for who argument?
yes.
All right, cool. So all these arguments seems to presume some sort of like substantive fairness, whereas like some people don't have access to certain arguments. The one is about structural fairness and institutional rules. Why does the LNC not?
I think like structural fairness is like a bad model for like choosing whether
Really,
you
so we should
read
have
or-
speech times.
That's not structural fairness.
Oh, is it not?
No, that's a
Interesting.
rule.
That's perfectly fine. Let's talk about these like
Okay, that doesn't
we
take out
get
the
new
argument.
2 responses to spikes. Can you explain both these arguments to me?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. The first one is
There were
predictability.
2. Explain both.
There is more than that, but
Okay, explain all
I'll
of
explain.
them.
I'll choose two and explain of them.
Explain
So
all
the
of
first
them.
one is predictability. Obviously, we can't predict every single spike in the app. You get infinite amount of prep time, which probably proves that you can say something anti-left for half a sentence, say that why that inference a real solution. For 5 minutes of spike specifically because it was a new app probably proves that we should get new 2-hour articulation. B point is one C strategy skill of reading spikes pigeonholes negative offense. So you should be very lenient on the way we answer these spikes in the 2-hour. Because obviously, like all of our strategies depend on answering the spikes. It's just a question of time. So we wouldn't have been able to get our link evidence if we had to spend 5 minutes responding to your spikes. And I think all the like hoops argument, all those arguments are procedural arguments that still impact turn those arguments. So even if you go for them in the 1 AR, we can still go for those performative offense in the 2
Cool.
AR.
Let's starting from.
Sorry, it's right.
Yes. What was your arguments for why state arguments are not unique?
See, the political is non-unique. Like Trump is president.
Cool.
Next one, state is non-inevitable. It's a question of the alternative. We say we resolve the state.
Did you just find pessimism in the negative case?
What does that mean?
Like black people literally have no hope in society?
Yeah, that's our ontology arguments.
Cool. Oh, that's fine, 2:30 rating. Oh, I do the F. F. Cool, 100%. Set. Oh, set.
Can you give me a second? I lost my Wi-Fi.
Can you take a slight pause between quotes?
What's up?
A slight pause between.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, Chalker, do you actually like care if you flash it as well as email? Like, I don't think like we're going to get Wi-Fi anytime soon.
Really? Yeah, that's fine. Do you have a flash drive?
Yeah.
Sweet, thank you. Yeah.
So this underview,
Mhm.
is like the underview part of the case, or is it like extensions? Cause like I see extensions at the top of the
Huh. What? Oh, right. So it'd be underview, then those extensions.
Gotcha,
Yeah, see.
cool.
Way to go, boss. Yeah, cool. I'll send it.
I'm just gonna fill the underview and you should be great. The extensions was Oh, BUT courts 1 hour?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Everyone good?
Mm-hmm.
You good, Whitley?
Yeah,
I'm just messing with you, bro. Alright. Cool.
Extend the interpretation. The negative must defend an alternative act. The negative cannot defend an alternative act. The IED must defend the USFG. Visa violation. The alternative pretty clearly does not defend the USFG. Extend the standard of the fiat abuse. They have not conceded. They cannot contest the abuse story, which is basically damage. The argument is pretty clear. It says that the alternative makes excludes discussion because it means that they just feel the opposite of the AFA way, which means that we cannot read Psalm CDF. The whole point of the AFA is that we enact a policy that leads to some sort of mindset shift. But it's so far as they just see out the mindset shift. That means that there's no way to weigh the case against critique, which means that there's no way to read Psalm CDF. It turns underneath their role about because it means that because it means their practice is unrealistic and incapable of being judged as a conceded arguments for why we win, which also takes out all of their Smith and Poisey's evidence or whatever, because these are not arguments about fairness being making people jump through hoops. It's a question of you excluding me structurally from discussions, which means that your alternative is a very, very bad thing, which means that at worst these arguments are all non-unique, but the arguments is about the one argument was specifically about institutional fairness, which is a question of speech times, which is institutional fairness is necessary because competitive activity justified by rules and regulations, which means are necessary on the affirmative theories and issue of competing interpretations. Reasonability collapses to competing interpretations, which is beta over the right line is or also arbitrary, and cross-apply one-error theory is legitimate and drop the beta. Now they have, and also cross-apply no two in RBIs. They're not get it's a reciprocity question. We did in our first speech, so they should too. Additionally, they say they should get responses to spikes in the next speech, but it's predictability. That means that but we're not able to predict what the 1 NC is, which means that we should get 2 AR responses to all of the 1 NC arguments now, and the 2 N arguments as well, which means that and also they'll be point. They say that pigeonholing and they pigeonholes the argument, but they say that they pigeonhole us, but the other responses are pretty clear in that it means that it means that your strategy is proactively bad. Yes, we pigeonhole you because that is a good thing, because it means that your strategy otherwise would be a bad thing. So now let's go to the F. Extend largely only my firm concerns and moral reasons, only particularly in general rules, because it can only be applied by the other rules, which cause rigorous terms of case, because you attempt to universalize certain standing negotiation pressure, which not everyone experience also means the case abstract, because you attempt to find a common denominator that ignores identities, constricted, particularly, extend glad in order for philosophy to deal with problems, must understand moral reasons, changing paddle, which is the only method can help for social change, and just find all the issues, there's always the AK, a point right after the method, your theory is the end point of failure, the use of theorizing, which is the starting point of maybe point of philosophy exists for social reasons, your framework understands misunderstands concepts with itself, which means that even each argument is true, one come on a hard level, extend Pierce meaning only makes sense in the context of difference, makes more action, extends one moral inquiry, experience argumentation, we culminate in moral habit that makes a practical difference in action, always a pronoun affirming constrains assessment of reality. It's a lawful criteria can never be fixed or completely was once work may not be work now, so the environmental change practice takes criteria and incorporates them as tools and deliberations just as a permutation of the affirmative. We incorporate the alternative pragmatic methods relevant criteria sent about Homogeneous and inform the afterwards force people to restructure the beliefs and get rid of all misinformed preconceived beliefs on the criticism by ruining all forms. Knowledge production puts you in double either a point through deliberation we would reassure knowledge making the key non-unique viewpoint the education you champion is false, which we should reject now. And also means that the section turns and all are irrelevant because it means that we literally say universal rules are bad. Also means that we're not an ethical obligation because we're a decision-making procedure. Also means that deliberation constantly makes us resist these mistakes that you're on with our evidence because it's a question of empirics now, and the alternative of the critique, if we get rid of the same, we ignore certain populations. We need to say this justifies permutation of the and the alternative. We need to understand how to do the all better net benefit because the deliberation we get more coalition building. That is the condition. The affirmative permutation to both endorse our intensive orientation while understanding that certain actions to ensure a black man will stay dissolution. Political organizers will help us get a relief from brutality. Right now, we need to have what we should do is educate ourselves politically, begin to police in the U.S. But that should not contaminate our orientation and permutation. Additionally, do the affirmative, then the alternative deliberation. Make sure that the alt is pedagogically imperial. Make sure the alt is not pedagogically imperialist because it means that we can deliberate about those things. Additionally, alpha blackness ontological. First, cross-law Rogers is reductive. Second, you don't have psychological evidence that black people think of themselves as slaves or other people think of blackness as slaves. Third, society changes attitudes towards black people, which proves that their position in civil society is not fixed. Fourth, even if this is true, this means that black people do not engage in deliberation. They can still stay outside of civil society because they have unique experience. Fact, psychoanalysis fails voters and not blacks. Problems are to suffer by antagonists and struggles that cannot be resolved through symbolic interventions. Psychoanalysis addressing psychoanalytic are really cool, which means that the link terms criticism, but additionally they violate the shell anyway, which means that we have two routes of offense, and we're still clearly in the substance debate. Our framework is clearly better.
Yeah.
Can you also flash the just like the theory shell, because when I refreshed my email, it got rid of like everything.
Sorry, yeah.
The order is going to be an overview, then the underview on case. You can flow the overview next to the underview on case. I'm not going on the K.
Hold on, you said overview, underview, what? What's going
Overview, underview on case.
So a new overview?
Yeah, but it's not long. It's just like what's around.
All right.
So
Overview, underview.
I'm just gonna pull up the theory shell on my flash. What is it called?
Oh, you take Cortez, he's not gonna be able
Wait, it just went back to the same. Oh, so it's just at the bottom. Okay. Okay, is everybody ready? Take the chaos condition. There was no performative reason to affirm under the critique debate, so we will win this debate on performance. The usage of spikes on the 1AC was inherently anti-black. We have won that anti-blackness is bad, but it's not a question of whether the links of the 1AC were anti-black, but the act of reading of spikes were anti-black. So if we win that those were anti-black, that's a reason to negate, because you conceded that performance matters. Multiple reasons. 8 point is it devolves. It shows the intuition of the actual reading. It shows the intuition of reading the affirmative, and shows that it shows what the meaning of the affirmative is. If you want is that representations are inseparable from accuracy, no matter what the 1AR did. There is always some representational question about the representational question about it. See points. You conceded that you can see the turn on shape 15. That turn that representations are key to actually creating the movements of the first. Even if they are conservative movements or any movements itself, which means it's key internally to accessing 1AC solvency or any of your offense, which proves that a performance definitively comes to and outweighs. There's no 1AR reason why performance doesn't matter, even though we had reasons the 1AC why performance matters. So there's no 2AR articulation. You're going to cross-apply your arguments for particularly your strategy, but no, you consider that those are specific to 1 and C, so you don't get to apply those arguments. Now the T shell. Now that we kick the critique. We don't defend an alternative advocacy, so we don't have. There's no violation. And second, I defend the USFG doing nothing. That's the status quo, which proves there's no impact of this. We just defend that the 1EC is anti-black. Now we also line by laying your arguments like competing interpretation. The negative may defend an alternative advocacy that has a different actor than the affirmative. You say theodabase, but no, theodabase is not unique. You incentivize picks because the only thing that people can read is the USFG, and then some other factor, which means they must pick out a developmental system or unique to which kills one of your offense reformulation, also makes it impossible to engage with it internally to all your offense. Your next argument is that your next argument is that you say marginalized people are being oppressed by the state. No, but our argument is that we should be able to critique the state to tell you that you obviously do not know that marginalized people are being dominated by the state. If you defend the state itself, which proves our role-playing bad arguments that you have not responded to, which means that's a direct diss to the interpretation. You shouldn't vote on it. Next, you say it links to our rule of bad because it outweighs, but no, our praxis is realistic, and we don't extend our text to rule out just the performance arguments we make, which means this text is incoherent. At best, there's terminal defense on the interpretation. You shouldn't vote on it. You say no articulation. We'll go for the Stratsky argument that we'll go for the predictability argument. We don't know what the affirmative is, especially because it's new. If you say you know what the negatives are, no, you had a 1 year block, you read off your computer, and then 1 year probably means that you know what the affirmative specifically because it's new. You should have prepped out generic arguments like affirmative and cap, which proves that there's no impact on this argument. So we should be able to have a tune our articulation. That's also key to clash with internal links or other justifications. Now the case debate. You only make one reason for why theory comes for performance, and that is that it's a question of institutional fairness. But you can see that institutional fairness doesn't matter when you take advantage of those institutional fairness by reading a hyper-specific affirmative, by breaking into and then reading a ton of spike that excludes arguments as race, etc. That forces debaters of color to jump through, which is the reason why it impacts your fairness justification. Also, you should cross away the begging question. The institutional fairness is inherently magnetic. That debate is structurally unfair, which disproves the voter of the T-zone. There's obviously no way you can against it. Now, the impact train extend the Smith 13 evidence that theory and spikes in the 1 season form of hoops that forces that pigeonholes negative offense and forces the negative data to respond specifically to affirmatives that skirts discussions of race. The affirmative is a really good instance of this by saying we can only defend things that operate within, say, black people should be able to critique this way by not defending things, which proves that your debate practice is exclusionary. Also, you can see that the F interpretation example, the interpretations are an example of policing that positing the objective notion of what is fair in education is inherently anti-black, but because it assumes that there's always one form of education or fairness that is good, which crowds out marginalized debaters and prevents discussion, prevents discussion, which proves that interpretations like the affirmative example of policing. A point is that the call to objectivity argument, but B point is that. B point is that proves you need to go to the outside line because you're uncomfortable with engaging the positions like the negative. You say that the negative shouldn't happen, but obviously the negative should happen. We should be able to question the reputational, the one you see in the representational practices. That analytic made in the 1 year probably proves our policing argument because you try to pigeonhole the negative offense and you cannot weigh the show. We say that clash is good, but you might take the form like generic distance or canopy instead of valuing fairness education through ground should value through our performance offense that forces debaters to delve in the case law of race and anti-blackness, which broadens education. Also impact turns your fairness justifications because it proves that because it proves that you will be able to access new forms of grounding argumentation. We can link to critiques and and that outweighs now the T is colonial argument. You can see that T is a form of coloniality because it's a question of because there's no impact of procedural arguments like fairness or education. The pausing that is inherently anti-black. Now we're winning 100% strength of links to our arguments because you can see you can see the case card. You can see the what was it? You've conceded the turn on the state that you've conceded the. No, we won't go for that. Okay. Extend the case point. This is This is also a representational reason why the affirmative is anti-black. You can see that Western education is a form of coloniality. Will the card be read on the contention? The card is specifically fired. It's talking about how westernized education and use of institutional reform in developed nations is an example of colonialism, which you try to posit objective forms of education on developing nations, which is an example of coloniality and enforcing perspectives on the people, which proves that you perpetuate the same types of representational anti-blackness in the contention level offense, which means that we have 3 links coming to our offense. You've also conceded the Priosi 86 evidence, which is empirical evidence about how hoops are always created to force people to jump through hoop when they try to engage with the affirmative. The affirmative is impossible to engage with because you make it impossible for us to read the only argument that truly responds to the affirmative, that is anti-blackness, which disproves all your theory comes first arguments and state comes first arguments.
Spikes or anti-black argument?
What?
So is the spikes or anti-black argument?
Skirt discussions of race, positive limitation of objectivity,
Yep.
Pigeonhole negative offense. Like scared debaters don't want to go to the other side of the library because they don't know what anti-blackness is.
Okay.
rescue argument on the shell. What was the interpretation again? Same actor as the affirmative?
Yeah.
There was two, I think. The one was under the Picks, increasing Picks argument. The second one was we can't defend things outside the F, which means that we must have been like specific forms, which is bad for like ground. I'm not too sure. It was all extensive. But I think that's probably the closest to the argument. If I can't remember that. It was just like basically the terms on this. Like the arguments that I told you before, were the net benefits of the counter. There's no specific counter standing.
All right, cool. So it'll be the case, then the critique.
We're on the case.
It'll be the contention level of the case. Actually, no, framework and contention.
Alright.
Cool. Is everyone ready?
The most damning argument they conceded last week is the Rogers evidence, which indicates that in reading that the blackness is ontological is reductive, which papers over anti-black oppression, which means that non-unique spikes are anti-black argument, because the argument is that you are also anti-black and that you paper over certain notions of blackness, which means that you create a cookie-cutter model of what blackness is. This is exactly the arguments in the 1AC and the 1AR, which means that is a reason for why anti-blackness, at least performatively, is non-unique.
Now also, contention.
Extend the Affirmative Brock and Papagiannis evidence, both are empirical studies that indicate that the affirmative is a good model of deliberation. Take out the terms that you read last week, which means that none of your arguments are true if they're not empirically materialized, which means and it materially indicates that we are a good thing. So now, shut. Use spirit of the interpretation when evaluating fears, whether I mean solve black the office shall prefer first check use people instead of make black be a bad book, I mean ensure no debate on the actual office shall waste, even if laws in the rule will have to be redefined in order to apply to specific situation. Second, you I mean just not solve the existing only lexing sense, which means the abuse is still present, always we specific violence, and if you read a reason you solve the no if you read the rules and condition on the behaviors they sanction, so which you can do or people only care about semantics, because text only model will leave us with the actual rules means that the offense of the 1 AR shell is still true, because it means that the fiat abuse standards, at least in terms of 1 AR strategy, is skewed because we cannot generate soft essence to the 1 AR, which means that even if you kick and go for the 2 that just proves the abuse, because we do not have that's only in the instance that we were able to respond to it really well. In the event that we are not, that means that you just go for the critique, which means it doesn't matter what your 2N strategy is, especially the 1N strategy, pigeonholing us to either giving us a terrible ground or not letting us reach soft essence at all, or going for the critique anyway, which means that it's just bias back on the shell. Now on the counter interpretation. They say Picks, but the argument is that Picks would be nonsensical in the interpretation because if they were to pick for the U.S. government, that would just link into the critique because which means that the Pick does not make any sense because
the alternative would link into the link, which means that the Pick shell is the Pick's counter standard is not relevant. Now we will win. Now let's go back to the offense, the original shell.
Extend the fiat abuse standard because it means that you proactively make me jump through hoops and exclude me from the discussion because it means that we cannot generate salty deficits if you object the fiat of the F away.
You have not contested the original abuse story, which means if we just win that fiat abuse outweighs, we win. We've already done that because underneath your role that means we do not test your praxis. It's GG. But now we win institutional rules that way. A1. A1 is contradictory to say it is not because we all care about things like speech times and competitive activity, which means that these are reasons why fairness outweighs the one is the impact. But the point is that fairness turns the role of battle because it means I was structurally excluded from the discussion, which means that if I'm winning the offense shell, that means that institutional rules outweigh the most. The point is that all of your arguments about the Smith evidence, the point is that all these pieces of evidence all appeal to the same argument that we should have discussions of oppression, that certain people are excluded from discussions. If I win the fairness offense, it means that I was excluded from the discussions, which means that fairness offense comes first over these anti-blackness terms, which means that institutional fairness at least outweighs all your arguments about substantive fairness, but our question about structural fairness. Institutional rules are necessary in competitive activities, and it's contradictory to say it's not, because you can see you tacitly consider those rules. So Ron breaks down really simply. Judges turns the role about, also gives his offense in ways.
Okay.